Alright, welcome back to Black Butler Anime Review, episode number 17. You're thinking, wait, why is your episode count for this one so low compared to other anime series? Well, simply for the reason, the fact that I finished viewing the anime, like all of it was released at that point, back in I think it was 2018, I think it was. And I did in 5 episodes, so this is before I changed my format. My old format when it comes to interviews, just review a whole season, then just talk about it that way. Nowadays, I do simple episodes, and yeah, it's been about years since we had the last season of the show, which is the public school arc. Now we have this Emerald Witch arc. Excuse me, Emerald Witch arc, which I looked it up. This is actually the 5th most recent arc in the manga. Yeah, I say 5th the most recent because there's actually 3 more after this. Actually, 4 more after this. And by the way, the arc itself, it is roughly like 22 chapters. This episode, in a way, covered chapters 86, 87, and the first 11 pages of chapter 88. This episode is called His Butler Doing Fieldwork. Now, the beginning of this episode was actually as a preview last year, where we have these 2 Germans going to a forest who are doing fox hunting. Well, of course, it's a haunted forest. By the way, they actually didn't dub this scene originally, because it was still done in non-Japanese. It was dubbed in German. And then here, it's basically 2 guys speaking English with German accents. Basically recreating the same exact thing here. They go in the forest, they come across basically the Okun, and they come across a werewolf, and then when they get back to their home and they're running away, their faces get blown up, and then one died, the other one later actually still alive, but in a hospital. So then we cut to basically Cecile and Sebastian on the way to this area in Germany from England. They do show a flashback up. By the way, when we first see him in the episode, he's trying to teach himself German. Yes, so I don't know if this is really happening at the time, basically, because I knew about the fact that Victoria was queen of England at some point in time. That's alright, anyways. So Cecile is asked to basically order to investigate these series of deaths happening in southern Germany. And it turns out Germany is being ruled by Queen Victoria's grandson. Okay. So, family ties. And it's about mentioned about the legends of the witch, where apparently the witches were persecuted, so they moved to this forest. They set up a village and have werewolves basically be their familiars. And of course, as part of the episode, Cecile doesn't believe in witches, but yet he believes in demons. Bit hypocritical. And if you're curious, was like this in the manga? Yes. Yeah, he was. So Crunchyroll didn't alter anything at all. Also, this is the 2nd season of the show dubbed by Crunchyroll, because prior to this, the last thing ever released dub-wise was prior to the last season, was the Battle of Atlantic film, which that was dubbed by Funimation. Yep. That was the last thing ever dubbed by Funimation. And like in the case of like My Hero and a few other series, this was a contracted dub. They probably were told to do this. Plus, they added some new characters. I'll get to who basically shows in the episode because I'm very happy to hear this. So, basically, after talking to a friend of theirs, investigating the area, and it turns out basically this is happening all over the place, so a lot of it's true. And then we see supposedly like an old friend of Cecile's father, who's not their contact, and of course they mention, oh yeah, there's the Phantom Hive Information Network, where there's mention of Lang, but he is not in the arc itself. No, he is remarkably absent. I should also point out Elizabeth herself is in this arc, but she does not show up toward the very end. I know I'm kind of spoiling it, but yeah, she plays no role in this arc at all. Just like the last season's arc, which is public school. That one, virtually no role at all. Not really. She does play a role in the very next arc of the series. Yes. We'll get. Hopefully, they get a chance to adapt that. I'll talk about it later. So, discussing with a friend of his, he proceeds to arrange Sebastian to have 2 tickets paired for them for a trip to the United Kingdom. Now, of course, they can't exactly fly there. So I'm presuming, anyways, they get a boat and then a train, or they had a train hooked up between the United Kingdom and Germany. I'm guessing it was a train because no mention of a train per se, because it's the channel, and unless you get some hurricane, whatever, I'm sure there probably was some train. And when you get there to this area, because in a foreign country, that's not England, nobody speaks a lick of English. So you have characters speaking in German. So you have now, excuse me. I don't know if this is Jamaka Turn doing this, or it's basically someone else doing this, where they basically say his lines in German about the people who died and the village being real, and offered to buy his cart because he won't go there because he's too spooked by it. Plays up intentions or fears. So then, for some reason, Cecile's house staff comes to Germany. Why they're all there for is questionable. Even Taka's there, which is kind of weird, given the fact that a lot of the time this guy does virtually nothing throughout the whole series. He very rarely plays a role. Yeah. Maybe they need him for some reason. Like, why would we need his maid, his cook, and his gardener? Well, simple answer. They're warriors. He probably needs them for body work. And they managed to go through the forest with no issue at all. Where these people were not there in the daytime. And then they arrive at the witch's village, which is interesting. And turns out, yeah, this portion of the story was true. And then they go inside, and he's like, where is everybody? And they're like, is it here? And then here comes a bunch of women showing up. And Cecile always points out, though, where are all the men? And that's not him being sexist. Of course, that's much before this about, former Germans being beauties. It's like, he's like, all about humor. The thing is, Cecile was 13 years old. And he has a fiancé, something that they don't mention here at all. Nope. And then, of course, after we're keeping intruders, they're going to kill him. And then their lore comes in. You're thinking, it's this guy. Nope. It's this very young girl who's 11 years old. And she's voiced by the awesome Sarah Weinhoff. Like, this was interesting. Though she's putting on a fake German accent for this, because I have met Sarah Weinhoff. Unless somehow, basically, that she somehow can speak German. Which I don't know if she can or not. But she put on a fake accent. So, yeah, we're speaking German. And, of course, basically, like, apparently her name is Sullivan here. Yes, her name is Sullivan. I knew about her being here. And I was kind of surprised that she got added to Black Butler of all series. I guess she's been in a lot of her series, so why not Black Butler? I guess she figured out, hey, why not? The series is coming back. I want to chip in. And her playing a character who only appears in 2 story arcs the whole series. This arc, and she also appears in the following arc as well. But after that, she's not been seen since then. Her role is very much smaller in the very next arc of the series, but yeah, she doesn't much anything at all. And that's not her fault, that's the writer's fault. So, that because it's late, they can't go out in the woods because there's a werewolf. So then she invites him in their mansion. Now, once you watch the episode, like, wait, okay, why is this guy carrying the girl? Why can't she walk? From what I read, she practices foot binding. It's a Chinese thing. to change the shape of feet. Weird. I'm thinking this is Germany. Why is she practicing a Chinese thing? I have no idea. So on that mansion, we see what looks like Iron Lung and a bunch of other, Iron Maiden and a bunch of torture devices. And the reason we're here? Probably for amusement. Probably like, yeah, people don't forget. And that's where the episode ends, with them basically arriving at Sullivan's manor. Her manor. And that's pretty much the episode in a nutshell. Yes, good start. And like how I did point out, but yes, this episode did adapt the first 11 pages, because when they first introduced her in the episode, like, that was the end of chapter 87. Look up, I looked up basically the next chapter, and look up basically the rest of the chapter at that point, covered virtually the first half of like chapter 88. So in the first half episode, basically covered like 2 chapters. So way 2.5 chapters, but overall, like I said, good episode. Next up we have is the return of the Black Butler manga, first time in almost a year. And the reason for this, my guess is because they're ready to break. So yeah, series is back. We're on chapter 214 in the manga. The Butler ascending. Well, the cover was just basically still held in the arms of Sebastian. So you have these two staying at this very weird hotel that looks especially similar to Colosseum in Rome, for reasons. So it's basically, it's like, so somehow he knows who they are. Hey, my master. Yep. And then for some reason we have a guy who looks like Sebastian posing as a bellboy. Yep. Yeah, he looks exactly like him for some reason. And then we have like, ooh, this is a very nice looking hotel. Oh my gosh. Like, it looks like it's like several stories. I've stayed in a hotel like this before in Texas. This was like over 10 years ago. So, yeah. Then of course, we have this 19 elevator. Press the button. They go up. And they arrive pretty much this week pretty quickly. And of course, goes in the room, and of course, they all relax. They both relax, like, they come as Mr. Michaels will stay in the semi-suite. Jason's event deluxe suite. Semi-suite, not in a waiting room. That would presumption of a mere butler. What we offer all guests regardless of their class. Freedom and inconvenience. That is the expert service also offers. Lastly, this gift is for our guests. A ticket to an amusement park called the Merry Ocean Pier. Just me in the hotel, wish the spot with the latest, and well, they change clothes, and of course think about the stuff with the Undertaker. Somehow they knew what they were, because they questioned, but they did question it, but they don't question, like, they got Major Orcel, Joe Third. Remember. So the Fairchild, they mentioned basically the Fairchild, the manager. The Fairchild conglomerate, a family of merchants dating back 19th century, who rode a wave industrial revolution, accumulating wealth, investments in the colonies, railroad enterprises. He is a new aristocrat who was granted the title of Baron thanks to his wealth, a merchant prince, and a major shareholder of the Bank of England, who even advances funds to the government. Interesting. Meaning he uses his wealth to rebuild the facility a number of times. They destroy the hotel in physical sense. Indeed, if our guests were to lose their lives as a result, they were claimed time of the Earl. Randall wished to rush over and investigate me on suspicion of taking innocent lives. Truly, young master. Your adversaries have to take his reason. So, I shall thoroughly investigate this hotel. It was like, my. So you say this? So you stay at this prenoma of your will? Experts will tend to your master, but you still have plenty to do. Agree? Much obliged. I'll start by inspecting the hotel. Let's go, Sebastian. Yes, my lord. And then they go outside, and then they pass by somebody who's carrying an infusion stand. Oh, this is a 19th century version. And then, of course, they knock over Sebastian, this guy. Yeah, right? You wish she good luck. At last I found you. There I am, demon. I'm like, who the heck are you? I wonder myself. But yeah, overall, really, really good. So yeah, that is pretty much a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. And I will see you all tomorrow because it's getting really, really late right now, okay? Let's go. Bye.